Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me. And for those of you who are going to be joining us later as you catch the replay, this is another edition in my monthly workshops. This one's called A New Retirement, Not a New Worry. The idea is that you approach a post-career life with the idea of anticipation and not worry. So we're going to cover a variety of elements in today's presentation, and the agenda is going to flow like the following. I'm going to tell you a little about who am I and who's the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program. We're going to talk about the worry areas and the worry solutions. So I've looked at a variety of situations and descriptions of current retirees and the worries that they either experience or are fearful of experiencing, and try to provide some solutions as a way and an opportunity for you to anticipate those before you enter post-career life, or if you're there already, it's something that you can help reconsider and retool and refine what you're doing. And then we're going to talk about potential next steps, and I'll end it with any Q&A that you all might have relative to what's been discussed. So if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to take the retirement worry analysis. This is actually the basis and the outline for tonight's presentation. If you haven't taken it before you see this, don't worry about it. You can go back and take it later. And obviously the content will be very relevant to you, whether or not you've taken it or not. So don't think like you're going to miss out if you haven't, but I'd encourage you to take it afterwards. The agenda looks, sorry. The next thing is me, a little bit about me. I've been 35 years in business development. That's another fancy word for saying sales. So sorry, but sales is what I've been in. I've worked for Fortune 500 companies and small businesses, and I've worked independently and have led teams of over 40 people. So I know what it's like to be productive by myself and to also try to motivate others to be productive. All throughout my career, I've been always fascinated by this idea of productivity and time management. I've never felt that when it came to sales and business development, I was the most flashy or charismatic. But what I did try to do is to be the best at preparation when I was in front of folks. And so that has kind of stuck with me. And about 3 years ago, I started Kairos Management Solutions, and that's the side of my business where I work with individuals, teams, and companies to craft productivity and time management strategies for them to be more effective in their employment. However, about a couple of years ago, my wife and I were visiting with our financial planners, and my wife just threw a question out there, said, well, what if Dave retired today? And I wasn't expecting it. Our financial advisors weren't expecting it. But after some robust and lively conversation, they basically said, yeah, if you guys want to live on beans and rice for a few years, technically, yes, you could go into a post-career life. Well, that got me to thinking, well, what does that mean for me? Because I hadn't really spent a lot of time on that. And I went ahead and used the principles I use on the business side with companies and individuals and teams, and led myself through my own post-career lifestyle journey. And that led me to develop what I called a lifestyle plan. And then I got to thinking, wow, there could be an opportunity. If it's not just me, there's probably others out there that are in the same boat. Well, in order for me not to just walk out there and say, hey, I developed this great thing, follow me, see what I'm doing, I went ahead and became a certified professional retirement coach that helped affirm what I was thinking and also helped me to better understand how I might serve clients that I want to work with and that want to work with me. And so that motivated me to start the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program. And then also, I am finishing up on the editing process next year. I'll be launching my first book called The Time Optimized Life, which is kind of a culmination of all the things that I have seen and done and used in my time frame in the business development world. So that's a little bit about me. The Infinity Lifestyle Design Program is in essence a 4-tier program. And that's based upon first the Life Beyond Career workshops, of which this is one of those. I hold those monthly covering a specific topic that we then dive into in deep. The second element is if you want to begin a formal journey, we do that with a 1-hour consultation. And that's using the tools that I have created as a way for both you and me to understand the opportunities you might have in crafting an ideal post-career lifestyle strategy. I encourage this and actually want this to be part of the opportunity for people to work together as a couple. So if you have a spouse, a partner, significant other, it is imperative, and I highly encourage that this process be done together, because you'll both learn some things about each other that you didn't know. And then once you're done with that, you get 2, 3, 4 tips, outlines that you can go start to craft your own lifestyle strategy. At that point, if you're kind of like, I still think I need some more detail, some understanding, then I offer 2 additional programs called the 12+1 and the 6+1. It is in essence the same type of content, but it's delivered differently. If the 13-week program is for those individuals and couples who are going to be able to devote the time, get the exercises done in between the times that we meet, then I would recommend that. If you're looking for more of an accountability partner, someone to come alongside you to proactively reach out and say, how you coming on these things, that's what the 25-week program is about. But I do not have clients go through those 2 programs until we've done a 1-hour consultation, because you need to trust me to be able to be there for you to deliver the value that you're looking for. So that's in essence the programs. So let's move on and let's get into what the topic of today's is. And that's really this idea of worry in retirement, worry in post-career, and what are the solutions you can do to overcome that worry. Now, I chose this image, and typically when you see images of sunrises and sunsets, you don't know really what it is unless you're there. I live on the east coast of Florida, so obviously I can go 4 miles to the east of me and I can go see the sunrise in the morning. Now, what's cool about the state of Florida is I can turn around and in 2.5 hours, I'm on the other coast and I can wait and see the sunset on the other coast. But you don't know whether it's a sunrise or a sunset unless you're experiencing it yourself. And that's what I want to encourage you, is that this is and should be always looked at as a sunrise or a new beginning. Your post-career or retirement life is a time of opportunity. Obviously, you can go back and look at maybe some of the wonderful things that you've accomplished in your career, but look at your career as a sunset and your retirement or post-career as a sunrise. That's why I think it's important to have a new beginning mindset. Now, there are 3 main categories as it relates to what people worry about in retirement right now, and those financial, personal, and medical. Those are the 3 elements, and those are the 3 main areas that people have challenges with as they try to figure out or live in a post-career life. And so let's start with personal. Personal, we're going to look at, and each one of these has 6 categories. But you have miss your career, you are socially isolated, I've got way too much free time on my hand, am I going to be physically active, not physically active, what's that impact? Overall societal changes, how much does that worry as I am going to be navigating and living my post-career life? And then this idea of being a physical burden to others. Is what I'm going to do and how I am require others to take care of me? So let's go into each one of those individually. And not surprisingly, maybe surprisingly, but particularly with COVID, a lot of folks retired early and then found out, ouch, I shouldn't have retired. Now, 1 in 6, and this has been a consistent flow year over year, but 1 in 6, about 6 months into retirement, consider returning back to work. There's a variety of factors in there, but the one that comes most raises to the top is actually they're just bored. They didn't realize that they hadn't planned anything out in order to have a fulfilling life. So they consider returning back to work. However, the challenge there is some of them don't do it successfully, because whether you're an active work, you work in something where you're very physically active, either way, you're mentally active. And when you move out of a career, your mind sets into a new level. And if you're not doing a whole lot and you're bored, it can be very difficult to go back into a career situation because your mind's not there. Mentally, you're not prepared, and you might not be prepared physically. So the avenue that you need to take if you're in a pre-retirement area right now is to clearly define a lifestyle strategy for yourself. Something that covers physically, mentally, and spiritually, so that you can have a good idea of what you're going to do to occupy your time. And guess what? Work can be part of that. That's okay. But define that before you head into retirement, so you don't have to try to figure out the difficulty of trying to return back to work because you're bored. The second one is social isolation. And 1 in 3 people right now in retirement experience loneliness. Again, a variety of factors, but the top 2 are basically health. You're just not healthy enough to be socially engaged, or you're embarrassed about lack of mobility or other avenues of your health, so you're resistant to be in front of people. And then the next one is actually income, is that they hadn't anticipated the needs of their income in retirement. And so that impacts their ability to socially interact beyond their immediate neighborhood or other avenues. So the solution to that is to conduct a social media audit before you retire. And that's simply, you list out all the people you interact with today, both ones that are close friends on to like even coworkers or acquaintances. When you take that list, and this might seem a little arrogant, but when you take that list, you then go ahead and you start to check off who's important to me in my life. Who am I going to want to invest of myself into that life, regardless of whether they give it back, because it's important to me, because I benefit from that relationship. Now, in the vast majority in those cases, those people are going to give back to you because it's mutually. If you like to hang out with them, they're probably going to want to hang out with you. But don't qualify it by saying they have to hang out with me in order for me to want to be around them. So once you conduct that audit and you identify those people, you make it a concerted effort to stay connected with them, because they're the ones that are going to be there when you're in post-career. Because when you head into retirement, your social network drops at least in half, because many of your casual relationships, and even some close ones now, are tied to work. But when you take work away, that's a huge commonality that goes away, and it's that much harder to hang on to those particular types of relationships unless you decide to be dedicated to it. So that's social isolation. The next one is basically time management. Gosh, I wake up, I got all this time on my hands. And when work goes away, you increase your awake time, your free awake time, by at least a third if you work a 40-hour-a-week job. So the challenge there is people don't manage their time because they just don't have any structure. They don't put any structure around their life. And that's where the solution is, to develop a robust lifestyle goal planning strategy, one that takes you from a purpose statement on down to short-term goals that's adaptable and changeable, so that you are constantly filling free time with not just stuff, but value-added things that bring meaning and purpose to your life. The next one is physically active. And right now, anywhere from 5 to 9 hours, people in retirement are just sedentary. They're not doing anything. Now, in the case of a job, that could be the same thing with the job. If you've got an office job, you're sedentary for a long period of time. The difference, though, is you're being engaged different ways. You are mentally, obviously, being challenged in that particular aspect, depending on what your occupation is. But what happens is you get into post-career and very easily you can suck up time doing nothing. And so the two aspects that cause people to be sedentary is one, health. It's a vicious cycle where your poor health causes you to be sedentary, and then you're sedentary because you don't want to do the work to get healthy. And it's just a vicious cycle that falls into that. The second thing is no structure, just as we had mentioned before. The way to solve that is to create a personal care strategy. That's something that you're going to dedicate yourself to be physically active, whether that's a formal exercise strategy, it's either hobbies or activities and things that you're doing that keep yourself moving. Because the more that you move, the more you help your body stay fit for the long term. So if you start to become physically less active, that'll be a challenge as you get older. The next thing, and this was actually interesting to me, it's a number one worry on the retirement worry analysis participants, and that's societal changes. And I think any one of us can say, particularly if we're in the time frame of being close to retirement, things in the world in the United States are a lot different than they were 30 or 40 years ago. Some people embrace all the changes that have been happening. Some people don't like what's been happening. But it's safe to say there's been a lot of societal changes. And a lot of people worry around that. And the biggest thing is because they just don't feel they have any control over that. And guess what? Probably, unless you want to run for high political office or become a social influencer somewhere, you really don't have that much control. But however, what you can do is start with yourself, and that's to know your purpose in life. If you know what it is and why you wake up and what you want to accomplish, kind of your own personal mission statement, that grounds you to say that regardless of what happens in the society around me, I have a set of core values, principles, and purpose in my life that will guide me no matter what, so that you know I'm going to accomplish the things tied to that purpose and navigate through the society changes, whether I like them or not, in a way that still maintains the purpose of what I have. And then the six, to summarize the six of those, wait, did I go? I went past physical burden, sorry. Physical burden, the last one in this group, is that I thought this was an astounding statistic. Only 13% of people 65 or older meet the physical activity guidelines as established through the Centers for Disease Control. And those aren't very robust standards. So they're not saying everybody 65 should be able to run a 5K in under 20 minutes. They're just basic standard things. And really what happens on the physical burden aspect is it becomes not a priority for people. That basically, I really don't take care of myself. And then what happens is you have other people that have to come around and assist you. And in that particular case, that can be very taxing for you. It could be humbling and shameful for you, but it could be challenging because of the demands you're putting on typically a spouse who may not be in great physical shape, him or herself, as well as family members. So again, I go back to the idea of creating an exercise plan to keep you physically active, to reduce the impact of you potentially being a burden on someone else, or to at least shorten that burden of what that might mean. So to summarize the personal aspect of things, if you're going to miss your career then set up a lifestyle strategy beforehand. To be socially isolated, do that social network audit. If you've got too much free time on your hand, set up that robust goal strategy. If you're worried about being physically active or a physical burden, set up a plan to keep yourself physically active. Invite your medical professionals in on that so they can help you plan that. And then when it comes to societal changes, establish your own core personal statement, personal belief or beliefs that'll help you navigate through regardless of whatever the changes that will occur. So that's the personal element of what it is and the top things that people in retirement worry about. The next is the financial aspect. There's 6 here as well. First one is availability of Social Security. What's going to happen there? Alternative living plans, assisted or independent living. Having to take care of adult kids is a worry and a reality. I'll jump down to the bottom of being a financial burden to others is usually when your kids take care of you. So you need to be mindful of that. Quality healthcare is always a big challenge, a real worry about that, particularly as people transition into the Medicare system and how to navigate that. And then also just this idea of having enough money for retirement. So let's go through those 6. First of all, availability of Social Security. Right now, according to AARP and the Social Security Board of Trustees, Social Security is solvent until 2034, where then the surplus gets depleted. And why? This is not a political statement. It doesn't matter what political party. I think you can say over the decades, nobody in government has done what's been needed to address Social Security and make it a more sustainable program. So I don't think Social Security is going to go solvent in 2034. I think, when their backs are up against the wall, the politicians in Washington will do something to get this figured out, to at least extend the program. However, if that is a worry tied to what your financial strategy is like, ask your financial provider to do a stress test on your portfolio. So in the case of most financial advisors, they run through your portfolio through a series of scenarios and probably give you a confidence level that says, hey, at this point in your savings, there's an X percentage of confidence level that you're going to have enough money until you're 99 years old. Well, if that plan includes Social Security, have them take it out and tell them to run the stress test, tell them to run your portfolio without Social Security and tell them to give you the confidence level there. That way you'll know if you're good without Social Security, awesome, you're set. And then that's just gravy for you. You know you're set in case the bottom drops out and it goes away. Another thing you need to do is set a budget, if you haven't right now, for what your expenses are now, but set a budget in retirement, what you think your budget's going to be like in retirement, and then see what happens if you don't have Social Security included in there. Am I going to be able to meet that financial issues or challenges there? So bottom line, I think if you're in your 50s and 60s, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Qualified, I'm not a financial professional, so please don't come back to me if that changes. But from what I've read and from what I have been told by professionals, people are not worried about the solvency for Social Security as it relates to people getting close to and in retirement. It's for those in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who are probably going to have a much different program for them than it is for people who are older. All right, the next one is assisted living. And I really mean assisted and independent living, because people who live in independent living get insulted if you tell them they live in assisted living. And the difference is independent living, I call it like living on a cruise ship on land. It's basically, you can still do all the things that you do if you lived in your house yourself, but you live in a place that gives you additional amenities in order to make your life very comfortable. Assisted living is actually when you live in a facility that you bring in additional help. People come check on you. Maybe there's a medical care component tied to it. And so it's much more formal and you're watched closer. So right now there's about 800,000 folks in some type of facility, but that's due to triple in the next 25 years. So basically, for those of us who are heading into retirement, a lot more of us are going to be looking at these type of facilities to live in. Why? Because we're all going to be living longer, not only because of people who are taking care of themselves have a tendency to live a lot longer. Just technology's giving us this opportunity to live longer. How much of that quality of life, it's up for debate, but we're all going to live longer. So the idea to address that is to create a long-term residency plan that says, this is where I am now. I want to be here for as long as I can, but what do I have to do if I either have to move or I have to move into a facility that's going to take more care of me? So just so you know, in today's dollars, to move into a nicely run independent living facility is going to cost you somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a month. So it's a big chunk of living expenses, particularly when many people go into retirement with their home paid off. So they have no home expenses tied to that because that's tied to their budget. So something to consider there. Must take care of adult kids is the next one. And right now, 68% are or have supported adult kids in and around their retirement age. Why? A lot of it has to do with a volatile economy and the fact that their children are having more difficulty either launching or they need help coming back for a while to get things back in place. So in this case, don't want to sound cold-hearted and cruel, but you have to make some tough decisions about the risk you want to put yourself in and the life you want to have and the savings you have in response for your children. You might be, I'm going to go all in to help my kids. That's great. Just know the risk of what happens and know your own stopping point if needed. If you want to go all in and help your kids, that's fine. I'm not advocating one way or the other. Just know though, if it's okay if you want to set limits and boundaries about how much you want to help your kids, if it's going to risk your future. The next thing is access to quality healthcare. And basically, when you hit 65 in the United States, we'll transition to Medicare. And that has a whole layer of complexity to it because Medicare itself doesn't cover everything. You're going to need supplemental insurance, how much, what type. It's can be a challenge to navigate. But you're still going to have out-of-pocket expenses. As a matter of fact, the average person's going to have $67,000 of out-of-pocket expenses from 65 to the time they die. With a couple, that gets very big. So you need to be mindful that there's going to be a lot of money spent on there. So it's a complex system. That's why, because of all the things that are tied up in that particular program. So start researching now, start asking your financial advisor or planner. There are also actually things called health advisors. It's a service that you don't get charged for. But when you reach out to them to help you navigate through that, they work with you, and then where you land, they bill the insurance provider for that. So something to consider, but start understanding what health insurance looks like in retirement. Then the last thing is 55% right now of people are behind on their savings because they don't know how much money they need for retirement. And a lot of this is actually psychological, not reality. I was actually working with a financial services provider earlier this week, talking to them about their client base. And they told me that they had a client that has millions of dollars under care with them, and they still think they don't have enough for retirement. So the idea is, first of all, get professional help if you don't, and push beyond the portfolio performance. What I mean by that is, don't be worried just about how the portfolio performs. Like, hey, we did 3% better than the S&P. That doesn't mean anything if you don't have a large base with which you're working from. So focus on the base and what that provides you for your lifestyle, with the assumption that your provider's going to want to grow the business because that's how they get paid. So be mindful of that and find that good balance. The other one is to be a financial burden to others. And this is where the script flips. So 33% right now of adult children are giving support to their parents. Why? Because in many cases, the couple in retirement didn't anticipate all the outgoing expenses that would come. So if you're talking to your financial advisor and they're saying, yeah, we don't like where you're at in your range, then I think you need to, if appropriate, bring your kids into the discussion and say, hey, here's where we're at. We're thinking about retirement. We're at this risk. Just want to, and have the dialogue, because your children, if they know they can help proactively do that, but not be forced to, they'll be more apt to say, go for it, mom and dad. We'll be there for you. If you need it, we can help support you in this particular amount. So don't discount that. All right, the financial aspect, we talked about Social Security. Stress test your financial portfolio now without Social Security and get an understanding of what that looks like, though it's probably going to be there. Assisted living, understand the cost dynamics around that and what an impact of having to move into some place that might cost you $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year to live in. What happens if you have to take care of your adult kids, and what's your stop point there? How do you get access to quality healthcare? How do you navigate that? Really understanding if you've got enough money for retirement, and then talk to your loved ones if you feel there's some risk of you not having everything you need for your entire lifespan. Finally, we're going to wrap it up, not wrap it up, but we're going to go into the last category of medical. And a lot of things that worry people here is this idea of becoming seriously ill or sick, suffering from depression, having cognitive decline, this ability to just take care of yourself related to a variety of aspects, having your loved one or loved ones become sick, and then outliving your partner. So those are the 6 areas that really cause worry for people in retirement. Now, this also I thought was a really high statistic. 80% of adults 65 or over suffer from one chronic health condition, and 68% suffer from 2. So there's a lot of people out there with chronic health issues. Now, a chronic health issues could be high cholesterol, very, very treatable. So there's certain chronic conditions that are very treatable for a sustained period of time. However, what typically leads to those chronic areas are a lack of personal care for yourself. So again, how to solve that is create a health strategy. That health strategy should involve the 3 elements I talked about earlier of physical care, mental care, and spiritual care. Physical care on the sense that you're going to be diligent in visiting your doctor proactively and not reactively. Mentally, in that you're going to be doing things and activities to keep yourself mentally engaged in new experiences. And spiritually, depending on what your spiritual or religious makeup is that you're involved and thinking outside yourself, not just looking inward. So those 3 create that strategy, and that will actually help address and minimize the idea of becoming seriously ill. Now, it's not going to stop it, trust me, because there are millions of people who wake up every year realizing they have cancer through no fault of their own, being healthy people. So it's not going to prevent it, but it will help stop and at least give you a mindset that says, I'm focusing on taking care of myself. Depression is another area, and 33% of people suffer symptoms of depression in retirement life. And I go back to that's because they really don't have a purpose. A lot of the articles, particularly in Harvard and in this Psych Central, where I cite this from, really purpose was first of mind. When people don't know what they're doing when they get up, life can become very, very depressing. So define that purpose in life, create that life purpose statement. And then 2 of 3 at 70 years of age experience some level of cognitive decline. I can't tell you, pin it down to one factor. I can't tell you that there's one thing that you could do to prevent cognitive decline, because there's a variety of different ones, from dementia to Alzheimer's. So, and there's different aspects, both physical, psychological, that could cause cognitive decline. Just be mindful, though, we're all probably going to suffer some level of cognitive decline, but it doesn't mean that we can't have a robust life. I actually, a few weeks ago, met with a 95-year-old woman who lives in an assisted living facility, who manages the entire facility garden, as well as bakes about 12 pies a week. She is fun. She's a hoot. She's sharp as a tack. But she continually gives herself new engagements, new things in her life, and new experiences. So again, not a foolproof way. I can't tell you that this will do it, but the more you do frequent and different engagements, and you change up the cadence of your life, the more you give your brain something to be exercised about. And so therefore, that can potentially help in cognitive decline. Another area that challenges people is this ability to take care of yourself. The idea that I can't do basic functions anymore, someone has to come help me. Well, 70% of people going into a post-career life at some point are going to need long-term healthcare services, whether it's someone coming in part-time, like a visiting angels, or very structured personal care, because you're unable to do it yourself. What's the main reason why this happens? Is because people just become less self-aware. This is where partners and couples need to be accountability partners to each other. And particularly when you get up into your 70s, challenge your children or loved ones to become accountability partners to you. You may not like what they have to say, but if they do notice a change in your behavior and how you're taking care of yourself, the more they have permission to proactively challenge you on it, the better you're going to be able to address that. Now, from a strictly tactical standpoint, one of those other areas you can do from a financial status is to ensure you have long-term health insurance. That is outside of the normal insurance programs that are going to be offered through Medicare and supplemental insurance. Long-term health insurance is going to handle those costs if you have to have people come in and help take care of you or a spouse or a loved one. That's really important, because if someone needs care, a lot of times the spouses or partners' health suffers themselves, because they're having to invest so much time to try to take care of someone they might not be qualified to take care of. So look at long-term health insurance. You can talk to your financial provider or insurance provider about what that is and how that can benefit you. Now, the other one is loved ones become sick. And surprisingly, 1 in 4 marriages end in divorce and retirement when one of the spouses gets really sick. And a lot of that is because the spouse or both are just not prepared for that. They haven't done any really discussions about what each other's wishes are if a debilitating disease, sickness, or incident happens within the marriage or partnership. So it's really, really important that you prepare yourselves beforehand, again, through the long-term health insurance and personal goal strategies. And quite frankly, if you have to do a living will that's independent, that shows both just your wishes as well as your spouse or partner's wishes, so that if someone has to come in and help, they understand what you want and have that as a guideline as they work with either their other parent or their other loved one. So it's real important that you address beforehand your desires and needs, so that as you become sick, there's a plan in place to not put additional strain on either the marital or partnership arrangement. The last thing I want to talk about as it relates to this is outliving your partner. And this is a reality. Very rarely do couples who are in together in retirement die at the same time. It's usually an accident or something like that. Again, not to be morbid, but the reality is one of you is going to outlive the other by just a little over 5 years. And quite frankly, guys, it's going to be our wives or our partners that are going to be the ones. Women outlive men longer. They take care of themselves longer. It's just the reality. But regardless of that, you need to be prepared that there's going to be some alone time where you're without the one you love. And so in order to understand that, prepare a post-career lifestyle strategy now before you go into retirement, or if you're in retirement, create one now, because then you get to do the activities together that are really important to you, so that in case something happens, then you don't have regrets like, I really wish we would have done this particular activity together. So plan that out, work that out, and you'll find that at least you were able to have those wonderful moments together before one of you, unfortunately, has to be alone. All right, so the medical aspects behind that is, obviously the concern is to be seriously sick or ill, depression, cognitive decline, the ability to take care of yourself, your loved ones become sick. Really, a lot of those, the illness, the care of self, and the loved one becomes sick, all those get tied back to really the long-term insurance plans that you have, the resources that you're going to allocate to ensure that you're getting the best medical care for yourself, and that you're taking preventative steps in taking care of yourself. The cognitive decline and outlive partner aspects really relate back to your experiences and setting up a lifestyle strategy, not only alone, but together. So to summarize the three together, personal is all about purpose, goals, and care. Those are the three elements when it comes to your personal worries in retirement. Get a purpose in life, set goals, and just care for yourself. When it comes to financial, do a variety of stress testing to your current portfolio. Challenge your financial professional to give a variety of different scenarios that might seem outlandish, but it's a way to provide you with comfort that what you have right now is going to be able to help you live the life you want. And then finally, invite your family into the process outside of your spouse or partner, if appropriate, because the more either your children or other relatives know about what your financial situation is, the better off that they can come alongside to help you if needed. And then finally, on the medical aspect of it, the idea is from there, develop a personal care strategy. Talked about the long-term health insurance. And that strategy, by the way, is a personal care strategy that's proactive, but also a strategy about what ifs, what if certain scenarios happen. And then finally, that old lifespan discussion that says one of you's probably going to be alone. So kind of understand what you can do together, as much as you can do together, so that when one of you is alone, there's no regrets. So personal, medical, and financial. All right. So let's talk about potential next steps. So there's a 1-hour consultation that I offer that really falls into 3 buckets. The first is you'll take what's called the retirement time analysis. That's the exclusive tool that I offer that helps you identify areas of opportunity in 6 categories within retirement. If you take it as a couple or with your partner, you get a couples report that matches and looks at and compares each of those categories with each other and kind of gives you opportunities to see where you're in sync and where there's probably more dialogue. Then there's also the retirement life outline questionnaire. It's a companion piece that goes through that, so that as you work and read through the RTA, you'll be able to put your thoughts and comments down on paper, challenge some of the assumptions that are there. Like, I wasn't feeling that. I don't think that that result's true, but it gives you an opportunity to really think about what that's like. Then the preparation aspect is you go ahead and you work on all that. So typically, if you book a consultation, you're not allowed to book an appointment with me for at least a week, because I want you to work on this beforehand before we meet to cover that particular information so that we're ready to go and I can be as productive for you. And in that week time, I go ahead and analyze and review what you've sent me and establish recommendations from my end. And then we come together on a Zoom meeting and we walk through the questionnaire, we walk through the 2 reports, and I provide you with at least 3 key areas I think either one of you or both of you needs to focus on as you generate this post-career lifestyle plan. That's the first element. All of that runs into a $97 session with all of the tools and resources that come with it. Again, I've got the website underneath there if you want to learn more about that. But I try to make this as economical as possible because I consider this kind of a first dance for us. This is an opportunity for you to get to know me and make sure that you're going to be able to trust me as you share. I don't want to know your deepest, darkest secrets. Please don't share that with me, but you are going to share personal information. And I take that very seriously. And so I want to make sure you're able to trust me as you share that information. Now, I do offer the other 2 programs, but I don't want you to take these other 2 programs unless we've done the one-on-one consultation. And those are the 13-week and the 25-week program. I take you through in detail. It's the same content. It's just on the 6+1, I'm bugging you. I'm calling you, I'm texting you, I'm your accountability partner. We meet frequently. The idea is, though, on either one of those programs, you walk away with a fully set lifestyle strategy that's adaptable, that you can adapt as circumstances change. If you want, book a virtual coffee with me and we can talk about that in specifically, but please, I want the one-on-one consultation first. All right, here's what the follow-up looks like and what you're going to get from me. You're going to get the information on the 1-hour consultation. I'll give you a link to take the RTA if you haven't already. So you get a summary assessment. You get an idea of what that looks like. You get an idea before you even want to reach out to me for a consultation. I'm going to give you a link for a virtual coffee, whether a quick one to just kind of follow up with this and say, hey, I got some questions, or a 30-minute one to go through the deeper programs. Either way, we'll be able to book a virtual coffee. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop. And I'm going to stop the recording as well and offer up Q&A. If you're looking at, if you're watching this after the event's already been done, please feel free on the follow-up email. I'll give you a way that you can follow up with me on those questions as well. But thank you those who are here participating directly for listening to me in this particular time frame. And I am trying to get my mouse to stop the recording, so forgive me. So thank you very much.